That's embarrassing. I actually checked to make sure all of my pins were in a row before we started here,
I'm
and
like,
apparently I'm not getting any verbal cues. So thanks for taking the baton here to get
got
us
you.
going. Embarrassing for that guy too. Probably the first time ever on television, and could
Poor
have been better.
thing. Brutal.
All right, we got three games to talk about here on NESN Bets Kickoff. Let's start with the Andy Dalton reunion. Andy Dalton is now starting for the Carolina Panthers because the rookie Bryce Young is out. So Seattle, about a 4.5, 5-point favorite. What's your first take on this game, the first one in the afternoon slate?
Yeah, Bryce Young out. I mean, we know what to expect from Andy Dalton, but this offense overall, no matter who's under center, has been very underwhelming. They've only managed 27 points in 2 games, and it's not like they can rely on the defense. They let the Falcons put up 24 in week 1. So this weird number of 4.5, 5 seems 5.5 out there. Sort of a dead number. Don't want to touch that. I'd go Seahawks team totals to MVP. I feel like it's a really safe number, 23.5. They bounced back from that rough week 1 loss against the Rams, put up 37 over the Lions, which isn't saying much because of the Lions defense, but Geno Smith looked much better. Week 1 worried me a little bit, almost 330 yards and 2 tutties in that game. So I like the offense to keep that momentum rolling. I'd go over the team total. I feel like that's the safest play instead of laying that 5.5, 5 or 4.
Yeah, Andy Dalton's passing number is 211.5, which is not a lot for a modern day quarterback in
No.
2023. But I don't know that they get there. I mean, I watched a lot of Panthers football so far this year. The offensive line is not great. The protection is going to be an issue. And look, Andy just can't throw the ball down the field anymore with accuracy. So this is probably going to be,
Yeah.
if he throws the ball 25, 30 times at all, we're talking about Dinkin and Duncan. He's going to throw some checkdowns. He's going to throw some slants. He's not throwing deep
Mm-hmm.
post. I mean, he's not throwing balls like Tua. He's not throwing the Joe Burrow, Josh Allen down the field ball. So I look at Andy Dalton and go under 211 on the passing yardage. And then we look at Kenneth Walker, 65.5 by all accounts, getting healthier by the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to use him in the passing game as well. So that number on receiving yards is sort of low too at 11.5. But let's assume
Yeah.
that Seattle gets ahead against Andy Dalton, and Kenneth Walker probably going to get, 15, 20 carries. That
Mm-hmm.
65.5 rush yard number on Kenneth Walker, I'm going to go over there.
Yeah, he has the explosiveness too, right? The yards per carry is up there, and I know we don't have a huge sample size on him, but especially against the weaker defenses, he's going to get there. So I agree. Again, proceed with caution on these higher numbers with any player because we do have a small sample size, but he should get there. 66 should be an easy one for him.
Okay, so you mentioned your favorite play involves a team total. Are there any individual props you're going to play in this one?
I'm very tempted to go Andy Dalton over attempts. Now, that's not because I love Andy Dalton. That's not because I think he's great with his arm. I don't trust his arm, but we don't need completions. We don't need yards. It's not a touchdown play. It is just attempts because if they're going to stay in this game, if they can't get the run game going, it's going to have to be through the air. And when anybody comes off of the bench, whether they've been in the league for years, whether they're a rookie, whether they're Zach Wilson coming in for Aaron Rodgers, they're ready to throw the ball. They want to prove themselves. They want to get that starting job, even if it is just one outing out there. So I'd probably go over on attempts, but specifically with game script, if they're playing from behind, he's going to have to use his arm.
The Red Rocket is back. One of his former teams is the Dallas Cowboys. And we're actually seeing some money the other way in our second game here on the NESN Bets Kickoff. That's Dallas and Arizona. It was 13 this morning, but we're starting to see some money come in on the Arizona Cardinals here. This is one of 2 double-digit games on the afternoon slate. We'll save the best for last, of course. What do we do with Dallas and Arizona? I mean, I get it. Like, I understand wise guys taking a big number, but I'm nervous.
Yeah, I can't lay the 13. I've been saying this. I always say it with college, those big numbers don't scare me, but I guess it is. It's the fear of the backdoor cover. And the Cardinals have been surprising. I would say not so much their offense, more so their defense, but their defense has kept them close in games. Of course, Dallas's defense top right now in the NFL. So what I would do with this MVP in fear of that backdoor cover is probably just throw the Cowboys in a teaser. 2-team 6-point teaser down to 6.5. You compare them with the Steelers up to 8. I like that. Make sure you shop around. I believe DraftKings has the best price around -120. So that's the angle I would take with a side because you look at how dominant this Cowboys team is. It's not like me and Sammy are sitting here saying, "Oh, the Cowboys shouldn't be laying 13." They probably should be laying 13. I just don't want to play it. but you saw how they beat the Jets and the Giants by a 70-10 combined score. Cardinals had 2 close games against the Commanders and Giants, but they got outscored 31-8 in the second half to the Giants, who have not been good at all. So that worries me a little bit. Cowboys defense, 10 quarterback sacks, forced 7 turnovers. Now, no Diggs in the secondary obviously is a loss to them, but they have so much talent. And maybe if they were facing a Chargers, or I was about to say Bengals, we'll leave them out of the conversation right now, or a Miami, a high-powered offense, it would be a different story, and maybe we'd feel that impact of Diggs' absence a little bit more. But with how much talent is spread across this roster in the defense, I don't think it'll hurt them. So with all that said, Cowboys probably should cover the 13, but I would tease it down to 6.5. And there's one prop I like, but curious what you think of my teaser spot here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lay 13, and you can get it down to, you can get it even lower. I mean, some books are dealing you 11.5 right now, so you could get it down through 6. Obviously, get the best of the number here. I just look at this total. Total set at 43.5, 44, which means they're basically telling us it's like a 28-14 type game. I mean, that's given the math with the favoritism toward Dallas, and obviously Dallas's defense is one of the best in the league. But losing Trayvon Diggs is sort of interesting because he's one of their best corners, one of the best corners in the NFC East for that matter. And him being out is going to open up some possibilities down the field. The problem is they don't really have a legit number 1 wide receiver anymore. So the ability for Arizona to exploit the loss in the secondary for Dallas, I don't like. This isn't like they're facing, a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who's Dallas' star receiver. If you have a CeeDee Lamb, you could go ahead and force feed that guy against a backup corner, but Arizona doesn't really have that. As for the props, we talked about Andy Dalton's low number. How about Joshua Dobbs, 179.5?
Yeah, and he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet. He really hasn't done much, which is why I said any respect the Cardinals is getting as an early for their offense. With that said, I'm going to go with this same theme. With a massive spread like this, game script is so important because it is very likely the Cowboys are going to get up, the Cardinals are going to come from behind. So Josh Dobbs' number on passing attempts, I actually like this one even better than the last one we talked about, Dalton. 30.5 is the line. I found it out around -115. He had 30 and 31 in the first 2 weeks. And even if they do come out and somehow keep this game close, they're going to have to get the points up on the board. They can't rely on their run game and say, okay, we're keeping this close, we're going to run out the clock. You've got to get the points up because you know how Dallas can score. And once they get rolling, they do not stop. We saw it last season, and we're already seeing it this season.
All right, so over on attempts for Dobbs. I like CeeDee Lamb, actually, just to wrap this up on this game before we get to our final game. CeeDee Lamb's number is 71.5, and I think they have just been utilizing him to the best of their ability. Kellen Moore liked to spread the ball around, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mike McCarthy is now calling plays with Kellen Moore in Los Angeles, and Mike McCarthy's like, all right, that's all fine, but I'm going to feed my best guy. And CeeDee Lamb went off against the Jets. And you know why? Because they kept him on the other side of the field. Because the Jets, they don't like roll coverage. They keep Sauce Gardner on one side. They put CeeDee on Sauce's side one time. It was almost a pick 6. So then what did Mike McCarthy do? You know what? I'm going to move CeeDee to the other side, and I'm going to just keep feeding him against cornerback 2. I'm going to put him in the slot. So I think the ability for Lamb to get open and sort of avoid that double coverage and avoid the best corner, I think CeeDee Lamb's going to get 10 targets in this game, Claudia. So if he gets 10 targets, say he catches 8 of them at 10 yards a pop, 80 yards, easy.
He should get his, The offense is built for him, especially right now. If they get going, I think the majority of it will be from him. I like it.
All right, last game on NESN Bets Kickoff is the game of the week on Fox. I don't know how this is the game of the week, but it is.
I do know why, because there was so much hype around this Bears team, and I don't know if Travis knows somebody over there, and he was talking in their ear because he's the only person that I personally know that gave this team so much hype. Not to interrupt you, Sammy P, but that is why, because everybody thought the Bears were going to have this big come up. They were going to take this next step. Come on, guys. Justin Fields is maybe even worse with his arm this season.
Kansas City is a 12-point favorite. The total is 48. If you're a Chicago fan, I don't think this could have been more of a soap opera week. I mean, it starts with the FBI allegedly raiding houses. Also in there, the defensive coordinator decides to resign. Now the head coach is going to call the defensive plays. And then, oh, by the way, Justin Fields, who said he was the best quarterback in the NFC, he is now turning on his coaches. So that's a long way to say that the drama is real. I am not one to usually lay 12, 12 and a half, 13 points in the NFL, but I tell you what, I'd rather lay it before I take it here. Like, I'd rather lay the lumber than take Chicago and have them be down 21-3 at half.
No doubt. I'm with you there. Didn't play it. Casey's my survivor. I didn't even have to think about it. I don't think that'll be a sweat in the nearest sense. So I'm with you on Casey. I'd rather lay the points. I'm curious what you think on the props here, because you just talked about the drama with the Bears. I looked at Fields' rushing prop of 61.5. You can also, instead of going over that high number, which is the highest, you can bet him for plus money, plus 120, favorite for most rush yards. So I think that's a good option if you want some plus money. But with all of that drama, of course, it stems from the fact that they're trying to get Fields to play a different form of game than he is capable of doing. The reason that he is considered a top quarterback is not because of his arm, it's because of his legs and what he's able to do on the ground. So I think this is a game maybe where he comes out and says, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with it. So let me do what I do best and show you this is how we're going to stay in games. Now, whether it does actually keep them in the game, might not happen, but he's going to get his and show why he's chosen to be their quarterback. So I'd probably go over on that rush prop of 61.5. And if you don't want to go there, take the plus money for the most rush yards. But he's been sacked at the third highest rate with 10. And I think he is sick of that, Sammy P. So he's going to take it into his own hands and just take it on the ground.
Yeah, the only issue I have with anything Fields-related passing or rushing is that their line is just not good right now. Multiple injuries on the line. If he had better protection, I think it would be, something that I would maybe get to, especially on the passing yardage number. It's so low at 176.5. That's so disrespectful to a quarterback. I mean, if you think about it, his passing yardage is lower than Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs, 179.5. Justin Fields, 176.5. And one of those guys shouldn't be in the league right now. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
For props, though,
I
was looking at Justin Ross. We're not going to have a graphic for Justin Ross because he's one of like the fourth or fifth guys off the bench for Kansas City. But let's say that Kansas City goes up big here and they start emptying the clip. Justin Ross, former Clemson star receiver, is 12-1 to get an anytime touchdown. This is one of those games where I think Andy Reid can sort of empty the clip, as I said. Like, you don't want to get anybody hurt. Let's get some new guys, some new run at receiver. I don't think Justin Ross should be 12-1 to score a touchdown.
I see what you're saying. I probably wouldn't bet it, but you're totally right. And because of what you just said, I would stay away personally from Kelce. Lines at 71.5. I mean, he only had 26 yards against Jacksonville. Of course, he's been hurt, so that's all we've seen from him. We know what he's capable of. So you might be inclined to see this big spread, knowing that they should get up big. And he could get this in a few catches, right? That's very possible. But I would still stay away because of everything Sammy just said. So if you want a 12-1 touchdown play and then an under, I would say under on Kelce. And as Sammy P said, his long shot.
All right, that does it for us here on NESN Bets Kickoff. We'll be back tonight, though, at 7 o'clock. We're going to break down the Raiders against the Steelers. That does it for us here. Thanks to PNC Bank, helping make banking easier.